Unless you've been living under a rock, you've heard of Ozempic. It's a weight loss drug that is sweeping celebrity culture and TikTok with the promise of making America skinny again. It was originally a drug designed for diabetics, but it's been co-opted by people across the population who are pursuing weight loss for health and aesthetic reasons. But what is the impact going to be on the economy? In this video, we're going to look at the broader pharmaceutical market, economic trends, impact on quality of life and social factors, and impact on insurance mechanisms in the US. We're also going to look at the unsettling history of weight loss drugs and the potential risks involved in taking these weight loss drugs. Weight loss drugs, such as Ozempic, were originally a diabetes treatment. It works by helping to keep the blood sugar low by helping the pancreas to make more insulin. In simple terms, when blood sugar is high and then starts to drop off, that's what makes you feel hungry and tired. It's why if you have a bowl of cereal for breakfast, you feel like shit for the first 2 hours of the day and then are ravenous by 10 a.m. Ozempic and other weight loss drugs contain an active ingredient called semaglutide, which works as an appetite suppressant, which is why it exploded on the scene in 2017 as a weight loss drug. This has inspired other brands using the same semaglutinin active ingredient, such as Wegovy, which is exactly the same drug but in a higher dosage, and Eli Lilly, who claims to reduce body mass of up to 22%. Now, why are we seeing this trend? It's pretty obvious. According to the World Health Organization, global obesity has tripled since 1975. Almost 400 million children are obese or overweight. In America, over 70 million adults are obese, which is 40% of the population. And drugs like Ozempic can help people lose between 10 and 20% of their body weight. Now, this video is going to be heavily focused on America, where this drug has really kind of taken off. It's yet to take off in the UK, but it is about to. 1 in 8 Americans are now taking the drug. The use of GLP-1 could increase between 10 and 70 million by 2028. The costs are around $1,000 per dosage without insurance. With 30 million users, it is thought to increase GDP by 0.4%, and with 60 million users, this could boost GDP by 1%. Let's quickly have a look at the history of weight loss drugs. Anti-obesity medications in the US have a weighty history. Throughout the post-war era, it was amphetamines that were prescribed due to their appetite-suppressing effects. These were banned as a weight loss aid in 1979 due to their addictive properties. Perhaps the most notorious was fen-phen, which was perhaps the drug of the 1990s, and that is saying something. This was a cocktail of 2 mediocre weight loss drugs, fenfluramine and phentermine, which, when approved in 1992, began a craze of Stanley Cup proportions. I got calls from all over the country, Dr. Thiessen said. People would say, "I want the meds and I will pay anything." By 1995, the penny was starting to drop that the drug increased the risk of pulmonary hypertension, which is an untreatable and often fatal heart condition. In one study of 291 patients, 2 out of 3 had damaged heart valves. Given the risks associated with the drugs, some doctors cautioned that only those categorized as severely obese should take fen-phen, but their recommendations were scarcely heard under all the frenzy of a $52 million marketing campaign. The Mayo Clinic found around 100 cases of heart disease, with one woman passing away after just 30 days of taking the drug. There was also a link found between those who had taken the drug and who faced neurological diseases such as Parkinson's and dementia later in life. There are tens of thousands of medical claims against these drug companies, with a total liability and estimation of up to $14 billion. Now, that's not to say that we will have a repeat situation on our hands with Ozempic and other weight loss drugs, which has been taken by far more people for far much longer, without side effects of this severity being reported. In terms of employment and economic activity, New York University marketing professor Scott Galway has enthusiastically hyped the economic impacts of the class of medications, calling it the biggest business story of the year. When all of a sudden 100 million people are eating and drinking less, there will be a lot of winners that we can't even project. Everyone's talking about AI, and it's going to grab the most headlines. But over the next 5 years, the greatest shifts in market capitalization that are going to happen is because of the Ozempic economy. Whatever you want to call it, the obesity economy, that's about to be disrupted. When it goes away, you're going to see trillions of dollars of market capitalization reallocated and reshuffled. The economic potential and impact of these drugs is astronomical. Danish manufacturer Novo Nordisk has been named as the most valuable company in Europe, capitalizing a massive $428 billion in the market and dethroning Louis Vuitton's $419 million back in 2021. It's even surpassed the market value of the entire Danish economy. The Ozempic economy is due to change the landscape for the foreseeable future. And let's explore now some more examples across 15 categories. The Robin Report has some interesting findings, predicting that the resale and curvy plus-side categories of retail will see more activity as the consumer resizes. Retailers such as Adidas, Puma and Primark will capitalize on consumers resizing their wardrobes. Ozempic face is a commonly reported secondary impact of taking Ozempic, causing the face to be gaunt-looking, sagging and looking prematurely aged. Beauty brands are capitalizing on this with such as for bronzing products up by 33% and medical spas experiencing an increased demand for volumizing treatments. The lifestyle, fitness and wellness brands will all look to capitalize. However, profits will still likely fall to the likes of Amazon and Walmart, who are best positioned to acquire new assets and innovate to meet market demand. It's also thought that plane fares will either become cheaper or at least emit less carbon due to having a lighter population to ferry around, therefore requiring less aviation fuel. There are broader societal effects. The obvious effects will be savings on groceries. With these drugs, you might still get the odd stomach rumble, which basically means that your stomach is emptying, but it doesn't mean that you have to eat. It's the dropping of the blood sugar, which gives you that, oh my god, I need to eat feeling. Also, users have reported that they don't have the same visceral cravings for hunger. They could buy a packet of biscuits, eat one, and leave the rest of the packet, which we all know is a really hard thing to do because biscuits are designed to be eaten in one sitting. The food industry is inevitably going to take a hit. Weight loss drugs are changing spending habits with around 20% reduction in grocery spending. It seems to be snacks that are taking the biggest hit, like crisps and ice creams and sugary sodas, with Hershey's being down 20% and Coca-Cola and PepsiCo down 9 and 13% respectively. Particularly in America, the food industry thrives off people's addiction to fast food. But why have we not seen big food take on big pharma? You would think these tiny vials of drugs would be enemy number one for the food industry, and that they would be trying to take them down with misinformation and propaganda, like you see in presidential races. For now, this thinking seems to be that this is all just a fad, and so the approach is to keep an eye on consumer behaviour and think about ways to capitalise on trends. The food industry is constantly evolving, so this is nothing new. Whenever there's a cultural buzzword, we see this reflected on the snacks available on the shelves. Think of all those vegan alternatives, fat-free items and protein bars. Nestle has literally announced a line of food intended for GLP-1 users. Another side impact is improved quality of life. This will have positive implications for the economic productivity. Reduced obesity will lead to an improved quality of life for patients, enabling them to maintain their productivity and reducing absenteeism from work. There will be an obvious public health impact. By reducing the burden of diabetes and obesity-related complications like types of cancer, heart disease, and stroke, Ozempic can contribute to public health improvements, potentially leading to lower public healthcare expenditures for healthier populations. This works both ways though. If the population are living longer, we will need state-provided pensions to pay off for a longer period. However, there is evidence to suggest that these drugs will increase other maladaptive behaviours like drinking, vaping, and drug use. For many people, food is an addiction. With the compulsion to eat dampened, people might try and get their kicks from somewhere else. However, many people are reporting that the drug has helped them to dampen compulsive behaviours, cutting their drinking and kicking their lifelong battle with smoking. One of the biggest question marks is how these drugs are actually going to affect your brain. Of course, there are studies finding the link between the drug and improved cognitive functions. If you're not drinking and smoking so much, your brain is probably a lot healthier. Seeing as these drugs are reacting in the brain, we don't know what the long-term impacts might be on brain health. We're yet to see if taking these drugs over a long period of time will see an increase in neurological issues like Parkinson's and dementia. Insurance and reimbursement. The cost of Ozempic will strain insurance companies. According to some doctors, when you do the math, there is an overall healthcare saving of around 50% for weight loss drug users, through reducing the risk of needing medical attention, of heart disease, etc. The line is that you're actually saving the medical system money in the long term by taking these drugs, so you can feel good about that. These drugs could also cause Medicare spending to skyrocket by billions of dollars, especially as the range of illnesses the drugs are being diagnosed to treatment for is expanding. Given that Alzheimer's is otherwise known as type 3 diabetes, drugs like Wegovy is being looked at as an approved treatment option for illnesses like Parkinson's. Reimbursement policies for Ozempic can vary significantly by region and healthcare system. Negotiations between pharmaceutical companies and the payers are crucial in determining the drug's affordability and accessibility. But because there are such high upfront costs to providers issuing the drugs, the long-term savings just aren't being realised. So some providers just can't afford to cover these drugs in their insurance plans anymore, creating a regional disparity. The increase in demand has led to shortages of the drug, which can be life-threatening for those in diabetes, who the drugs are originally intended for. Now let's look at the risks. We're seeing a population of people who are ever more obese, but also incredibly nutrient deficient. Our food system clearly isn't working. Half the food in our stores are not even food ingredients, made up from chemicals that our body cannot process and doesn't recognise as food. UPF foods disrupt our bodily hormones and are engineered to be highly addictive, cheap and marketable. Again, we're treating the symptom and not the cause. And that's it for today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please comment your thoughts and I'll see you next time.